Let's go straight away without further ado. If you like Psychonauts, then you will probably like the Psychonauts too. Here is a simple example of what happens in the game. To overcome the painful anxiety of your character, you have to take part in cooking show inside his mind, making the dishes from enthusiastic speaking viewer, among them eggs, bread and pigs, nothing cannibal. For this we will in love with the first part, and if you haven't played it yet, then you should do it anyway. And now in more detail, Psychonauts 2 is in every sense a direct sequel to the 2005 game, which does not fundamentally change anything, but is precisely because of this that the atmosphere of the sequel feels a bit different. Something similar happened with the second and third parts of Pirates of the Caribbean, which inflated the pirate story about the crew of the dead to the mythology of the pirates of all seas. The gameplay basis in the sequel is still the same. The main character, named Razputin, is mainly engaged in platforming and fighting against periodically appearing enemies. From time to time, new abilities are revealed to him. There is a reality with a small open world. There are linear levels inside the minds of the other people, and you need to look for various useful resources. The authors removed inconvenient little things which made the game more dynamic. We left only autosaves. Recall in that first part, the ability to save at any time still led to the fact that the game was loaded from the last to checkpoint. Psy shots are now endless. You just need to wait for automatic replacement. In the first part, they ended, but they could be found almost at any point in the game. The inventory disappeared, but it was rarely needed. It seems that the main character now controls a little better while jumping. Besides, he knows how to stick to the walls. From the very beginning, 4 abilities are available at once: Psy shots, telekinesis, pyrokinesis and levitation, which allows you to quickly ride a Psy ball and glide for a short time in the air. This is more interesting than is jumping and hitting enemies in a close combat, as in the first minutes of the original. In the course of the game, 4 more skills will appear: the ability to look at the world through the eyes of another creature, time dilation, teleportation between flying clouds of truths, and calling a fat paper copy of the hero. Yes, now it's no invisibility, force field or bombs to confuse enemies, but all the skins in sequel are almost equally useful. From time to time, the obstacles and small secrets appear that you require use of the certain skill. All skills time to recharge. When you're in battle, sometimes juggle with almost all abilities. Opponents are now more actively punishing to use different skills. In the first part, apart from the boss fights, you basically had to deal with the same type of enemies. In sequel, there are many more types of opponents who will often attack you all together. Each requires a special approach, which makes the battle much more varied. The first part was not particularly difficult, at least some challenge appeared very rarely. In the second part there are no such moments at all. The riders are simple, the enemies are quite predictable, there are many objects around that drop healing spheres. You can buy first aid kits in your local store. There are 3 options in the settings that allow you to turn off the damage taken, but it hardly makes sense to use them. I wish it were a little harder to guess how the bosses were destroyed. However, this is not the main thing. This is the first. The second part of Psychonauts surprises not with the gameplay complexity, but with intensive levels. The concept that protagonist is able to travel through the minds of other people opened up just endless scope for designing locations even during the creation of the first part. There were really a lot of memorable levels in Psychonauts. Paranoid fantasies of mental hospital guard who considers himself like a milkman. The mind of the monstrous intelligent fish, where the main character grows to the size of kaiju and destroys the city of small fish. War game, where a person tries to defeat his second self, Napoleon, but none of them soldiers wants to fight. And the second part is no way inferior to the first in the intricity of the levels. Moreover, now developers are much more likely to show impressive views and spectacular cutscenes. It's a pity that the game slows down for a second or two after any load, including at the beginning of many videos. In Psychonauts 2, at least the inner world of the brain, which has been in the bank for more than 10 years, is impressive. When he is back in the body, the palette of sensations that suddenly falls off him is shocking. The level within this mind is an ode to the psychedelic culture of the 60s and 70s, with a bunch of references to 5 senses. Bright, acid colors, our leaves, grass hands, and rock music everywhere. Speaking of music, Peter McConnell once again wrote an excellent soundtrack emphasizing the game and firstly tone for the game. Imagine a bowling level. You can expect a bunch of pins and other familiar things from a bowling alley from him, but the authors of Psychonauts as always approach the matter creatively. How about a level where you ride a bowling ball around a construction site in 1930s? American cities where bacteria life afraid of bowling alley employees disinfect. It will end with a fantastic beauty ride that will show you a love story is damn important to the plot. Almost from the very beginning he will be shown the mind of the person who enjoyed walking in a hospital. But Razputin of the stupidity will change his thinking so that his risks will associate not with that but with money. And the next time a hospital from the inner world will mix with a casino. Their jars of urine work as bartenders and skeletons in hospital casino bet money on the result of heart races. At the same time, each level is covered with a bunch of witty little gameplay details, so in the first part you can look for the tugs to unload someone else's emotional baggage, and here for example, a gameplay novelty, the research for halves of the brain to pump the amount of health for Razputin. What we liked. A story that quite originally contains the original. Improved gameplay, there are more enemies and minor issues have been fixed. Increased level of staging, never saving a pace. While Psychonauts has changed the hair tone, it doesn't really hurt there. The game still surprised with witty gameplay findings of the developers, the dialogues are just funny. Increased stakes, new dynamics, and more detailed study of an alien minds largely compensate for the depraved intimacy. So Psychonauts 2 can be called one of the brightest games of this year. Don't forget to comment and subscribe.